The first email. It all started on an unremarkable Tuesday evening, the kind where the world outside my window seemed to fade into a dull blur of streetlights and distant car horns. I was nestled in my small apartment, the glow of my laptop illuminating the cluttered desk piled high with textbooks and empty coffee cups. As a college student majoring in computer science, I often spent late nights coding or scrolling through forums, diving deep into the labyrinthine depths of the internet. Little did I know that on this particular night, I would stumble upon something far more sinister than any code I had ever written. The first email arrived just after midnight. The subject line read, "You need to listen." At first, I thought it was a prank or some spammy advertisement. But as I opened it, my heart sank. The sender's address was bizarre and alphanumeric jumble that looked like it belonged to a hacker. The message was short but chilling. "If you're reading this, it's already too late for me. But you can still save yourself. Stay away from the dark web. They are coming for you." I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Was this some kind of joke? A twisted marketing scheme? I dismissed it as nonsense and closed my laptop, trying to shake off the unease that settled in my stomach. But sleep eluded me that night. The next morning, I found myself replaying the email in my mind as I walked to class. My friends joked about their latest online escapades, sharing stories of deep web dives and hidden forums where anything could be bought or sold. I felt a shiver run down my spine. They had no idea what lurked beneath the surface of those digital waters. Later that day, curiosity got the better of me. I decided to search for information about the dark web. After all, how dangerous could it really be? With a few clicks, I found myself on a forum dedicated to discussing dark web experiences, people sharing tales of illicit trades and encounters with shadowy figures. As I scrolled through posts filled with warnings and horror stories, one particular thread caught my eye: "The dark web apocalypse, what you need to know." I clicked on it, heart pounding as I read about people who had received similar warnings emails from their future selves detailing catastrophic events tied to dark web activities. The stories were surreal but oddly compelling. They spoke of disappearances and strange occurrences linked to an underground network that thrived on fear and chaos. Suddenly, a notification popped up on my screen, another email from the same sender. My breath hitched in my throat as I opened it. "You didn't listen. They're watching you now." Panic surged through me. Who was watching? How did they know about me? My fingers trembled as I typed a response, desperate for answers. "Who are you? What do you mean?" I hit send and waited, but no reply came. Instead, an unsettling silence enveloped me, as if the very air had thickened with dread. Days passed, and each morning brought new emails, each more frantic than the last. They detailed horrific scenarios, people vanishing without a trace after venturing into certain online spaces, others lured by promises of wealth, only to find themselves trapped in a nightmare they couldn't escape. Each message urged me to take action before it was too late. I tried to ignore them, convincing myself they were just figments of an overactive imagination fueled by too many late-night horror movies. But then came the third email. "You need to stop using your real name online. Change your passwords immediately." That night, while scrolling through social media, a mundane ritual, I noticed something strange in my notifications: a new follower with no profile picture and an account name consisting of random letters and numbers. My heart raced as I clicked on their profile. There was nothing, no posts, no friends, just an eerie blankness that sent chills down my spine. I quickly blocked them, but couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me closely. That night, sleep came fitfully. Every creak of my apartment sounded like footsteps creeping closer. The following day brought another email. "They're getting closer. You must listen." This time there was an attachment, a link that led to a hidden forum on the dark web. My curiosity warred with common sense as I hovered over the link with trembling fingers. Could this be some sort of trap? Yet something compelled me to click. As soon as I did, my screen flickered ominously before revealing a page filled with cryptic messages and unsettling images, people wearing masks, their faces obscured as they engaged in bizarre rituals under flickering candlelight. The thread title read, "Join us or be left behind." My heart raced as I scrolled through posts filled with ominous warnings about an impending apocalypse tied directly to those who dared explore the darkest corners of the internet. Suddenly, another notification pinged on my laptop, a new email from that same sender. "You've gone too far. Get out now." Panic surged through me as I slammed my laptop shut, and sat in silence, breathing heavily in the dim light of my room. What had I done? Had I crossed some invisible line? The weight of dread settled heavily upon me. There was no denying it anymore. Was caught in something far beyond my understanding. As night fell once again, shadows danced across my walls like phantoms come alive in the darkness. The emails kept coming, each one more desperate than the last, and with each passing hour, I felt myself being pulled deeper into a nightmare from which there might be no escape. This segment sets up suspense and intrigue while introducing key elements that will drive your story forward. Feel free to adjust any details or add personal touches as needed. Escalation of events. The next morning I awoke to a sense of dread that clung to me like a heavy fog. The emails were relentless, each one more urgent than the last. I tried to convince myself it was all a figment of my imagination, a product of my anxiety and late-night web surfing. But deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. I sat at my desk, staring at my laptop as if it were a ticking time bomb. The first email of the day awaited me in my inbox, its subject line reading, "They know you." My heart raced as I clicked it open. "You're being monitored. Change your routines. Don't go to class today." I hesitated, torn between disbelief and fear. Skipping class felt like an overreaction, yet the words echoed in my mind like a haunting refrain. What if there was truth in those warnings? What if I was already too far gone? I decided to heed the advice, opting to stay home and research instead. As the hours dragged on, I delved deeper into the dark web, navigating through layers of hidden forums and encrypted messages. Each click felt like stepping further into a shadowy abyss. I stumbled upon threads discussing something called the Collective, a group rumored to operate in the depths of the dark web, orchestrating chaos and fear for their own gain. They were said to be behind disappearances and unsolved mysteries, an organization that thrived on the suffering of others. The more I read, the more paranoid I became. I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching me from behind every screen. My phone buzzed with notifications, but I ignored them, focusing instead on uncovering the truth about the Collective. Then came another email. "You're getting too close. They will come for you." Panic surged through me as I realized how deeply entangled I had become in this web of terror. I closed my laptop and paced around my apartment, trying to calm my racing thoughts. That's when I noticed something odd outside my window, a figure standing beneath a streetlight across the street, shrouded in darkness. I squinted, trying to see better, but as soon as our eyes met, or at least I thought they did, the figure turned and vanished into the shadows. My heart pounded in my chest as dread washed over me. Was it just my imagination, or had someone been watching me? I decided to call my best friend, Sarah, hoping her voice would ground me in reality. She answered on the second ring. "Hey, you sound off. Everything okay?" she asked. "I'm not sure," I replied hesitantly. I received these strange emails about a dark web apocalypse, and now I think someone might be watching me. Emails? Dark web? That sounds like something out of a horror movie. She laughed lightly, but her tone shifted when she heard my silence. "Wait, are you serious?" "Dead serious," I insisted. "I skipped class today because of it." "Okay, listen," she said slowly. "Just take a breath. Maybe it's a prank or some weird marketing scheme. You know how people are online." "Yeah," I murmured, though doubt gnawed at me. "But what if it's not?" "Let's meet up later," she suggested. "We can figure this out together." Relief washed over me at her offer. Having someone by my side felt like a lifeline in this growing storm of uncertainty. As evening approached, I prepared for our meeting with an anxious heart. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across my apartment as darkness enveloped everything outside. Just before Sarah arrived, another email pinged in my inbox. "They're coming for you tonight." My breath hitched as fear gripped me once more. What did that even mean? A sudden knock at my door jolted me from my thoughts. "Sarah," I called out as I opened the door wide. She stepped inside with a concerned look on her face. "You look pale. What's going on?" "I just got another email," I said breathlessly as we settled onto my couch. "Let's read it together," she urged. As we opened the message together, Sarah's expression shifted from curiosity to alarm. "You need to leave your apartment now. They're already inside." My heart raced as we exchanged terrified glances. "What does that even mean?" Sarah whispered. Just then, we heard a faint sound like footsteps echoing from somewhere within the building. It was subtle but unmistakable. Someone was moving around outside my door. "Did you hear that?" I asked urgently. Sarah nodded slowly, her eyes wide with fear. We both stood up cautiously and crept toward the door, straining to listen for any further sounds. The footsteps stopped abruptly and eerie silence filled the air around us. "Should we call someone?" Sarah suggested nervously. Before I could respond, another email notification chimed in my inbox. "Look outside your window." With trembling hands, I pulled back the curtain just enough to peek outside into the dimly lit street below. My breath caught in my throat as I saw several figures gathered near the entrance of my building, dark silhouettes standing motionless under flickering streetlights. "What is happening?" Sarah gasped beside me. "I don't know," I whispered back, panic rising within me like bile. Suddenly, one of the figures turned slightly toward us, its face obscured by shadows, but unmistakably staring right at our window. My heart raced as adrenaline surged through me. We were being watched. "We need to get out of here," I exclaimed urgently. But just as we turned away from the window to grab our things, there was a loud bang on my door, a forceful knock that reverberated through my entire apartment. "Open up," a voice called from outside, deep and menacing. I froze in place as fear coursed through me like ice water. Who were they? What did they want? "We can't stay here," Sarah whispered urgently as she grabbed my arm. We hurried toward the back exit of my apartment, my mind racing with thoughts of escape, but just as we reached for the doorknob leading out into the darkened hallway, another loud bang echoed against our door, followed by frantic voices shouting, "You can't hide. We know you're in there." Panic surged through us again as we exchanged horrified glances. They were coming for us. This segment escalates tension and introduces new elements that deepen the mystery while keeping readers engaged with suspenseful action and dialogue. Feel free to modify any parts or add personal touches. Investigation and revelation. The pounding on the door grew more frantic as I fumbled for the doorknob, my heart racing in my chest. "What do we do?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling with fear. "Just hold on," I replied, trying to keep my own panic at bay. I turned the knob and yanked open the door, revealing a darkened hallway illuminated only by the flickering overhead lights. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel a chill creeping down my spine. "Run," I shouted, grabbing Sarah's hand as we bolted into the hallway. We dashed past the other apartments, our footsteps echoing against the cold tile floor. I could hear voices behind us shouting, demanding we stop, but there was no way I was turning back. We reached the stairwell and hurried down the steps, 2 at a time. Each thud of our feet felt like a countdown to disaster. As we reached the ground floor, I spotted the exit door ahead. Freedom was just a few steps away. Almost there, I urged Sarah, but just as we reached for the door, it swung open violently. A figure stood silhouetted against the dim light from outside, a tall man dressed in dark clothing with an expression that sent chills down my spine. "Stop right there," he commanded, his voice low and threatening. Without thinking, I pulled Sarah back and turned to run in the opposite direction. We dashed toward a side exit that led to an alley behind the building, praying it would lead us to safety. The alley was narrow and littered with debris, but we pressed on, adrenaline fueling our escape. "Where do we go now?" Sarah gasped between breaths. "I don't know," I replied desperately. "We need to find somewhere safe, somewhere they can't find us." As we rounded a corner, I spotted an old convenience store still open for late-night shoppers. "In there," I pointed urgently. We sprinted toward it, bursting through the door just as it swung shut behind us. Inside, the store was dimly lit and eerily quiet. The cashier looked up from his phone with a puzzled expression as we rushed past him toward the back of the store. "What's going on?" he called after us. "Just stay quiet," I yelled back as we ducked behind a shelf filled with snacks. We crouched low, trying to catch our breath while listening intently for any sounds of pursuit. "Do you think they followed us?" Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," I replied, my heart pounding in my ears. "But we can't stay here long." After a few tense moments of silence, I pulled out my phone to check for any new emails or notifications. To my horror, there was another email waiting for me. "You're safe for now, but they will find you soon. Trust no one." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I read those words. "Sarah," I said quietly, showing her the screen. Her face paled as she read it. "What does it mean? Who are they?" "I don't know," I admitted, feeling helpless. "But we need to figure this out." Just then, We heard footsteps approaching from the front of the store, the unmistakable sound of someone entering. My stomach dropped as I exchanged worried glances with Sarah. "We have to hide," she whispered urgently. We quickly crawled behind a nearby display of chips and candy bars, just as two figures entered from the front, both wearing dark clothing and masks that obscured their faces completely. "Did you see where they went?" one of them asked in a gravelly voice. "No," replied the other one sharply. "But they can't have gone far." I held my breath as they moved closer to our hiding spot. My heart raced as they began searching through aisles and calling out names, my name included among them. "Come out. We know you're here," one shouted menacingly. I felt Sarah's hand tighten around mine as fear coursed through us both like electric shockwaves. We needed a plan, and fast. As they continued their search through the store, I noticed an emergency exit at the back wall near where we were hiding. It was our only chance for escape. "Follow my lead," I whispered to Sarah before slowly inching toward the exit while keeping an eye on our pursuers. She nodded silently, her eyes filled with determination despite her fear. We crept toward the door while trying to remain as quiet as possible. Every creak of floorboards felt like thunder in my ears. Just as we reached for the handle, one of them turned suddenly and shouted, "There they are." "Nah." Without thinking twice, I yanked open the emergency exit and pushed Sarah through before following behind her into the cool night air outside. We stumbled into an alleyway behind the store, just as they burst through after us, shouting angrily into the night sky. Panic surged through me again. There was no time to waste. "Go," I urged Sarah as we sprinted further down another narrow alley lined with dumpsters and flickering streetlights casting eerie shadows around us. We ran until our lungs burned and our legs felt like lead weights, finally stopping when we reached an abandoned warehouse at the end of another street, a place that looked like it hadn't seen life in years. "Is this safe?" Sarah panted breathlessly as we leaned against a wall for support. "It has to be," I said between gasps for air. "Let's just catch our breath." As we stood there in silence, trying to calm our racing hearts, another email notification pinged on my phone. "You must confront them before it's too late." "What does that even mean?" Sarah asked incredulously as she read over my shoulder. "I don't know," I admitted again, but felt an unsettling resolve forming within me. Maybe it's time we find out who they really are. As if answering my unspoken question about how to confront this looming threat, head on the warehouse door creaked open slowly, before us a dim light spilling out into darkness like an invitation or warning all at once. "What if it's a trap?" Sarah whispered nervously, but something inside me urged forward. Despite her fears, curiosity mingled dangerously with dread, a potent cocktail that pushed me onward into unknown territory. "We have no choice," I replied firmly before stepping inside cautiously, while holding on to hope that answers awaited us beyond those walls, answers that could either save us or seal our fate forever. Inside was a vast expanse filled with shadows dancing across rusted machinery and forgotten relics from another time, a labyrinthine maze where every corner held secrets waiting patiently for discovery, or perhaps something darker lurking just beyond reach. As we ventured deeper into this eerie space filled with echoes of past lives long gone, I couldn't shake off an overwhelming sensation creeping up my spine. Something was watching us from within those shadows, a presence that sent shivers coursing through me like icy fingers tracing along bare skin. Suddenly the lights flickered overhead, illuminating parts of what appeared to be makeshift tables strewn about, cluttered with computers and screens displaying incomprehensible data lines of code, scrolling endlessly across monitors like some twisted digital tapestry woven from nightmares themselves. And then I saw them. Figures cloaked in darkness, huddled around glowing screens, faces obscured beneath hoods, pulled low over their brows, whispers exchanged among them, sending chills racing down my spine. "What is this place?" Sarah breathed beside me, her voice barely above a whisper laced with fear, but before I could respond a voice rang out from within their midst. "You shouldn't have come here." This segment builds suspense while introducing new elements that drive the story forward toward its climax. The protagonist's journey takes darker turns as they confront unseen threats lurking in shadows, while unraveling deeper mysteries tied to their dire situation. Feel free to adjust any details or add personal touches. Confrontation and revelation. The air in the warehouse was thick with tension as I stood frozen, staring at the cloaked figures huddled around their glowing screens. My heart raced, and I could feel Sarah's grip tighten on my arm as we exchanged terrified glances. Who were these people? What were they doing here? "Why did you come?" one of the figures asked, their voice low and distorted, echoing off the cold metal walls. "You've been warned." "We didn't mean to intrude," I stammered, trying to sound more confident than I felt. We received emails. They said we needed to confront you." A ripple of laughter spread through the group, a chilling sound that sent shivers down my spine. "You think you can confront us? You're already in over your head." "What do you want from us?" Sarah demanded, her voice steady despite her fear. The figure stepped forward, pulling back their hood to reveal a face obscured by a mask and intricate design that seemed almost alive, shifting patterns swirling across its surface like smoke. "We are the collective," they said, their voice dripping with menace. "And you have stumbled into our domain." "Why?" as I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. "What do we have to do with any of this?" "Your curiosity has drawn you here," the masked figure replied. "You wanted to know about the dark web, about us. Now you must understand the consequences of that knowledge." Suddenly, another figure emerged from the shadows, a woman with piercing eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. She stepped forward confidently, her presence commanding attention. "You're not just random victims," she said, her voice smooth yet chilling. "You are part of something much larger." "What do you mean?" I asked, confusion mingling with fear. "The emails you received were not just warnings, they were invitations," she explained. "Invitations to join us, or be consumed by what lies beneath the surface of the internet." I felt my stomach drop as realization hit me like a wave. "You mean this is all connected? The disappearances, the chaos?" "Yes," she replied simply. "We thrive on fear and chaos. We are the architects of this new world, a world where only those who embrace darkness will survive." My mind raced as I tried to process her words. "But why us? We're just students." "Exactly," she said with a smirk. "Just students who dared to look too closely at things they didn't understand. You think you can play in our playground without consequences?" Before I could respond, another email notification pinged on my phone, a new message from my future self. "They will try to manipulate you. Trust no one." I glanced at Sarah, who looked equally horrified as she read over my shoulder. The masked figures noticed our reaction and exchanged knowing glances. "Ah, yes," the woman continued, her tone dripping with condescension. "Your future self is quite clever, too clever for their own good." "What do you want from us?" Sarah repeated, her voice stronger now. "Join us," the woman said simply. "Embrace your fears and desires. We can offer you power beyond your wildest dreams, but only if you let go of your past lives." "Or else," what I challenged, trying to maintain some semblance of bravery. "Or else you will become part of our collection," she replied ominously. Suddenly, one of the cloaked figures stepped forward and pointed at me accusingly. "You've already seen too much. You cannot leave here without making a choice." "What choice?" I asked desperately. "Join us or face oblivion," they declared. A heavy silence fell over the group as I felt the weight of their gaze upon me, an invisible pressure that threatened to crush me under its intensity. "I won't join you," I shouted defiantly, adrenaline surging through me like fire. The woman's expression shifted from amusement to anger in an instant. "Foolish child. You think defiance will save you." Before I could respond, all lights flickered ominously before plunging us into darkness, the sudden absence of light engulfing everything around us in an oppressive void. Panic surged through me as I felt Sarah's hand slip from mine, and the chaos voices echoed around us, shouts mixed with laughter blending together into an unsettling cacophony that sent chills racing down my spine. "Sarah," I called out desperately, but was met only by silence. Then came a blinding flash of light, a spotlight illuminating one corner of the warehouse where Sarah stood frozen in place, her expression one of sheer terror as she faced a group of shadowy figures closing in around her. "No," I screamed as I lunged toward her, but was abruptly stopped by a force pushing me back, a barrier that felt like an invisible wall holding me captive, while she remained within reach yet so far away. "Let her go," I shouted furiously at the masked figures surrounding her, but received only mocking laughter in response. "You should have chosen wisely," one of them taunted before turning back toward Sarah with a predatory glint in their eyes. In that moment, something inside me snapped, fear transformed into determination as adrenaline coursed through my veins like wildfire, igniting every nerve ending within me. "I'll save her," I shouted defiantly before charging toward them again, this time fueled by an unyielding resolve that pushed aside any lingering doubts or fears. As I barreled forward through darkness, I felt myself breaking free from whatever held me back, a surge of energy propelling me onward, until finally I reached Sarah's side just as they closed in around her. "Get away from her," I yelled fiercely while positioning myself protectively between her and our captors, my heart pounding furiously against my ribcage as I prepared for whatever came next. But instead of attacking, they paused, momentarily, confusion flickering across their masked faces before they exchanged glances among themselves, whispers filling the air like an electric charge, sparking tension between us. "She has chosen him," one exclaimed incredulously, while another shook their head in disbelief. "What does that mean?" Sarah asked breathlessly beside me, her eyes wide with fear yet glimmering with hope. "It means," one figure began slowly before stepping forward again, this time lowering their hood to reveal a familiar face beneath their features, unmistakable. Despite everything, it was me. "I am your future self," I declared firmly, my voice steady despite everything swirling around us, the chaos fading into background noise as clarity washed over me like cleansing rain after a storm. "I came back to warn you, to guide you away from this path, but now it seems fate has intertwined our destinies more than we ever imagined." Gasps echoed through the collective as they processed this revelation, uncertainty rippling through them like waves crashing against rocky shores, a crack forming in their facade of power. "But why?" Sarah whispered softly beside me, her voice trembling yet filled with curiosity now rather than fear. "Because together we can break free from this cycle," my future self replied earnestly, eyes blazing with determination as they locked onto mine. "We can expose them for what they truly are, manipulators feeding off fear and chaos." With newfound strength coursing through me, I reached out for Sarah's hand once more, our fingers intertwining tightly as we stood united against whatever came next. "We will not be your pawns anymore," I declared boldly, my voice ringing out clear amidst uncertainty surrounding us all. The collective hesitated momentarily before launching themselves toward us, but this time we were ready. Together we fought back against their encroaching darkness, our combined strength igniting sparks of resistance that illuminated even the deepest shadows surrounding us. As chaos erupted around us, I felt hope blossoming within my chest, the realization dawning upon me we had power too, the power to choose our own destinies rather than surrendering ourselves willingly into despair. In that moment, the tides began shifting, the balance tilting ever so slightly toward light, breaking through darkness, a flicker illuminating paths ahead, filled with possibility rather than fear. And then, just as quickly as it began, the confrontation reached its climax, energy crackling through air like lightning, illuminating everything around us, until finally a blinding flash engulfed everything. When it faded away, I found myself standing alone amidst remnants left behind, echoes lingering faintly while shadows retreated into corners never meant for light. But where was Sarah? Where had she gone? Desperation surged within me again, but then I heard it, laughter ringing out softly behind me, a familiar sound that brought warmth flooding back into my heart. Turning slowly, I saw her standing there, smiling brightly against backdrop painted by dawn, breaking outside, sunlight spilling through broken windows, illuminating everything anew. "We did it," she exclaimed joyfully, rushing forward, wrapping arms around me tightly, while laughter bubbled forth uncontrollably between us both. "Yes, we did," I replied breathlessly, holding onto each other tightly, feeling warmth radiating between our bodies, dispelling remnants, lingering doubts, still haunting shadows left behind. Together we had faced down darkness itself and emerged victorious against all odds, united against whatever lay ahead, waiting patiently beyond horizons stretching infinitely before us both. And though uncertainty loomed still, we knew now we held power within ourselves, power forged from choices made along the way, leading toward brighter futures filled with hope rather than despair. As we stepped out into sunlight streaming down upon us, I realized something profound. We were no longer victims, we were survivors, ready to embrace whatever came next, together hand in hand, forging paths anew, filled only with possibilities, waiting patiently ahead, beckoning invitingly toward brighter tomorrows yet unseen. This segment concludes your horror story while emphasizing themes of resilience and empowerment against overwhelming odds. It wraps up character arcs while leaving room for interpretation about what lies ahead for them after confronting their fears and challenges together. Feel free to modify any parts or add personal touches. Aftermath and new beginnings. As the sunlight bathed us in warmth, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. The warehouse, once a place of fear and uncertainty, now stood as a testament to our resilience. Sarah and I stepped outside, blinking against the brightness, our hearts still racing from the adrenaline of our escape. "What now?" Sarah asked, her voice a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "What do we do with everything we've learned?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of our experiences settle on my shoulders. "We need to expose the collective," I said firmly. They can't keep operating in the shadows. People have to know what they're capable of. Sarah nodded, determination shining in her eyes. But how? They're powerful and connected. We're just two students. Maybe that's exactly what we need, I replied. An idea forming in my mind. We can use our skills, everything we've learned about technology and coding, to gather evidence and share it online. We can reach out to others who might have had similar experiences. Are you sure? She asked, concern etched on her face. What if they come after us again? I paused, considering her words. They might try, I admitted. But we've faced them once. We can do it again together. With renewed resolve, we set off toward my apartment, determined to start our new mission. The city felt different now, brighter, more alive, as if it recognized our newfound strength. We arrived at my place and immediately began brainstorming ideas. We spent hours researching the collective, combing through dark web forums and social media platforms for any mention of their activities. Each discovery fueled our fire. We found stories of others who had been targeted or manipulated by them, people who had lost everything because they dared to seek knowledge. Look at this, Sarah said excitedly as she pointed to a thread discussing missing persons linked to dark web activities. If we compile all this information, we could create a comprehensive report. Exactly, I replied, my mind racing with possibilities. We can document everything: emails, testimonials, evidence from forums, and publish it anonymously on various platforms. As we worked late into the night, I felt a sense of purpose growing within me, a stark contrast to the fear that had consumed me just days before. We were no longer victims, we were warriors fighting against an unseen enemy. Days turned into weeks as we gathered information and organized our findings. We created an online presence under a pseudonym, sharing snippets of what we had uncovered, while encouraging others to come forward with their stories. But even as we pressed forward with our mission, I couldn't shake the feeling that the collective was still watching us. Late at night, I would often wake up in a cold sweat, convinced that shadows lurked just beyond my window. One evening, as Sarah and I were wrapping up another long day of research, an email notification pinged on my laptop screen. My heart raced as I opened it. You think you can expose us? You have no idea what you're dealing with. The message sent chills down my spine. It was from the collective. What is it? Sarah asked as she leaned over my shoulder. It's them, I said quietly, my hands trembling slightly as I read the message aloud. They know what we're doing. We need to be careful, she urged, her eyes wide with concern. Agreed, I replied, trying to maintain my composure despite the fear creeping back in. But we can't stop now, not when we're so close. We continued working diligently but remained vigilant about our safety. Each time I received an email from the collective, it served as a reminder that we were playing a dangerous game. Then one night, as I was preparing for bed after another long day of research, my phone buzzed with another notification, a text from an unknown number. Meet us at the old pier at midnight if you want answers. My heart raced as I read it aloud to Sarah. What should we do? She asked nervously. It could be a trap, I warned her. But what if it's not? What if this is our chance to learn more about them? Or it could be a way for them to silence us, she countered. I weighed her words carefully but ultimately decided that we couldn't back down now, not when we were so close to uncovering the truth. We have to go, I said firmly. But let's be smart about it. We made plans for how to approach the meeting, cautiously choosing not to reveal too much about ourselves while preparing for any potential danger that awaited us at the pier. As midnight approached, anxiety coursed through me like electricity. Every shadow seemed alive with threat as we made our way toward the old pier, a place long abandoned, yet filled with echoes of memories past. When we arrived at the pier, its wooden planks creaked underfoot as waves lapped against its sides, a haunting melody accompanying our trepidation-filled breaths, echoing through darkness surrounding us. Are you sure about this? Sarah whispered uncertainly, as she peered into the void ahead, her eyes scanning every corner for signs of life hidden within shadows lurking just out of sight. We'll be fine, I reassured her, though doubt gnawed at me relentlessly, my heart pounding like thunder against my ribcage while uncertainty loomed heavily overhead like storm clouds gathering ominously on horizon. Suddenly a figure emerged from the darkness, a silhouette stepping forward into dim light cast by flickering street lamps, lining the pier's edge. Are you two ready for answers? They asked coolly, their voice smooth yet laced with an undertone that sent shivers racing down my spine. Yes, I replied cautiously, my voice steady despite everything swirling around us, the tension palpable in air thickening between us like fog rolling in off ocean waves, crashing against rocks below. The figure stepped closer, revealing their features illuminated by faint light. They wore a mask similar to those belonging to the collective, but this one was different, more intricate, yet somehow familiar. I know who you are, I said, slowly, recognition dawning upon me like lightning illuminating darkened skies above. You should, they replied coolly before pulling down their mask, revealing a face that sent shockwaves through me. It was someone I'd never expected, an old friend from high school, someone who had vanished without explanation years ago. Ryan, Sarah gasped beside me, the shock evident in her voice as recognition washed over both of us simultaneously. I'm sorry for everything, Ryan said earnestly, his expression sincere yet tinged with sadness, reflecting depths hidden beneath surface. I didn't choose this life, I was pulled into it against my will, but now there's no turning back. What do you mean? I asked breathlessly, my mind racing, trying to comprehend how he'd ended up here entangled within darkness surrounding us all. The collective isn't just some organization, they're part of something much larger, a network that spans across borders, manipulating people like puppets for their own gain. My stomach twisted at his words, realization dawning upon me that everything we'd uncovered thus far was merely scratching surface beneath layers, hiding deeper truths, waiting patiently beneath shadows cast by deceitful hands, pulling strings behind scenes. They've been watching you both since day one, Ryan continued gravely, his gaze piercing through me like arrows aimed directly at heart pounding furiously within chest. But why? Sarah demanded, her voice trembling yet filled with determination, refusing surrender despite overwhelming odds stacked against us all. Because you dared challenge them, you sought knowledge where others feared tread, and now they want to silence you before word spreads beyond these walls. Fear gripped me tightly again, but alongside it came something else, clarity, a renewed sense, purpose, igniting flames burning brightly within soul once more. We won't let them, I declared fiercely, my voice ringing out clear amidst uncertainty surrounding us all. Ryan nodded solemnly before stepping closer, his presence grounding me amidst chaos swirling around us like storm clouds gathering overhead, threatening unleash fury upon unsuspecting world below. I'll help you expose them, he promised earnestly, his eyes filled with conviction reflecting strength forged through trials endured together a long way, leading toward brighter futures, waiting patiently ahead, beckoning invitingly toward hope rather than despair. And just like that, we formed an alliance forged from shared experiences, battling against darkness threatening consume everything in its path. As dawn broke over horizon, illuminating everything anew, I realized something profound. Together we held power within ourselves, the power forged from choices made along way, leading toward brighter futures filled only with possibilities, waiting patiently ahead, beckoning invitingly toward brighter tomorrows yet unseen. With renewed determination coursing through veins, we set forth, ready face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing united we could overcome anything thrown our way, even forces lurking just beyond reach, waiting patiently for opportunity strike again. This segment concludes your horror story while emphasizing themes of resilience and empowerment against overwhelming odds. It wraps up character arcs while leaving room for interpretation about what lies ahead for them after confronting their fears and challenges together. Feel free to modify any parts or add personal touches. The final confrontation. With renewed determination, Ryan, Sarah, and I gathered our resources and made plans to expose the collective. We knew we had to act quickly. The longer we waited, the more power they could gain over us and others. Our first step was to gather evidence, hard proof that could not only incriminate them but also warn others about their manipulative tactics. We spent days working tirelessly in my apartment, poring over documents, emails, and testimonies we had collected from various sources. Ryan was a valuable asset. His insider knowledge about the collective's operations provided us with insights we hadn't considered before. They have a central hub, Ryan explained one evening as we pored over maps and digital files. It's where they coordinate their activities. If we can get access to it, we can find everything we need to expose them. Where is it? I asked, my heart racing at the thought of infiltrating their stronghold. It's located in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, he replied, his voice steady. But it's heavily guarded. We'll need a solid plan to get in and out without being detected. As we formulated our strategy, I couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The emails from the collective had become more frequent and threatening, each one taunting us for our efforts to expose them. They knew we were getting closer. We need to move fast, I urged as we finalized our plan. If they catch wind of what we're doing, they won't hesitate to silence us. The night before our planned infiltration, I barely slept. My mind raced with thoughts of what lay ahead, the potential dangers, the risk of being caught. But alongside that fear was a flicker of hope. If we succeeded, we could save countless others from falling into the collective's trap. When dawn broke, we gathered our gear, laptops, cameras, flashlights, and set off toward the warehouse. As we approached the location, my heart pounded in my chest. The building loomed before us like a dark omen, its broken windows and crumbling facade a stark reminder of what lay inside. "Stick to the shadows," Ryan instructed as we crept closer. "We'll enter through the side door, it should be less guarded." We moved silently through the overgrown grass surrounding the building until we reached the side entrance. Ryan pulled out a small tool set and quickly worked on the lock. With a soft click, the door swung open. Inside was a dimly lit corridor lined with flickering fluorescent lights. The air was thick with dust, and an unsettling silence enveloped us as we stepped cautiously inside. "Stay close," I whispered to Sarah as we moved deeper into the building. My senses were on high alert. Every creak of the floorboards felt amplified in the oppressive stillness. As we navigated through the maze of rooms filled with old machinery and forgotten relics, Ryan led us toward what he believed was the collective's main operations center. "It should be just up ahead," he said quietly. We reached a large door marked with ominous symbols that seemed to pulse with energy, a warning sign that sent chills down my spine. Ryan pushed it open slowly, revealing a room filled with computers and monitors displaying streams of data and images from various locations around the city. "This is it," he breathed in awe as he stepped inside. We quickly set up our equipment, documenting everything we could find, files detailing their operations, names of members, connections to missing persons cases, all evidence that would expose their sinister activities. But just as we began to gather information, an alarm blared through the building, a deafening sound that shattered the silence like glass breaking. "They know we're here," Sarah shouted in panic. "Quick. We need to get this information out now," I yelled as I frantically typed on my laptop, uploading files to secure servers while glancing nervously at the door. Ryan moved toward one of the monitors displaying live feeds from security cameras around the building. "They're coming. We have to go." Before I could respond, the door burst open. 2 masked figures stormed in, their eyes filled with fury as they lunged toward us. "Get back," Ryan shouted as he pushed me aside just in time to avoid an attack. We scrambled for cover behind desks as chaos erupted around us. "Stay low," I urged Sarah as she ducked beside me. My heart raced as I scanned for an escape route, while Ryan fought off one of our attackers. The struggle was intense. Ryan grappled with one figure while I focused on helping Sarah find a way out. "There." Through that window, I pointed toward a shattered window at the far end of the room. "Let's go," she shouted back as she sprinted toward it. I turned back just in time to see Ryan overpowering his attacker. He delivered a swift kick that sent them crashing into a nearby desk before turning back toward us. "Now," he yelled as he joined us by the window. We climbed through one by one, just as more figures flooded into the room behind us, voices shouting orders echoing through the chaos. Once outside, we hit the ground running, our hearts pounding in sync with every footfall against concrete as we sprinted away from danger. The adrenaline surged through me like fire. Fear transformed into determination as we raced toward safety. "We need to split up," Ryan suggested breathlessly as we reached an intersection ahead. "They'll be looking for all 3 of us together." "No, we can't leave each other," Sarah protested desperately. "We have no choice," I said firmly but gently. "We'll meet back at my apartment in an hour. Just stay safe." With heavy hearts but resolute minds, we split up, each taking different paths through winding streets lined with shadows cast by streetlights flickering ominously above. I ran without looking back, every instinct urging me onward, while fear clawed at my insides, threatening to consume everything within reach. As I navigated through alleyways and side streets, I couldn't shake off feeling eyes watching me from afar, a sensation lingering like smoke trailing behind wherever I went. Finally reaching my apartment, I rushed inside, locking door behind me before collapsing against it, gasping for breath, my heart racing wildly against ribcage, pounding furiously, like thunder echoing across empty spaces surrounding me. After what felt like hours, I finally managed to calm myself down enough, regain composure, checking phone anxiously, hoping for messages from Sarah or Ryan, but nothing came through. Just then, a notification pinged on my laptop, drawing attention away from anxious thoughts swirling around inside head. Opening it cautiously, I felt dread wash over me once again, reading words displayed across screen. "You thought you could escape? You've only just begun to understand what happens when you defy us." Panic surged within me again, but alongside it came something else: clarity, a renewed sense, purpose, igniting flames burning brightly within soul once more. I quickly began drafting a message detailing everything that had happened: the confrontation at the collective headquarters, the urgency behind our mission, and finally the need for help beyond walls enclosing me now. Just then another notification pinged, catching attention once more. This time it wasn't an email, it was a video call request from an unknown number flashing across screen. At heart racing, I hesitated momentarily before accepting. Curiosity mingled dangerously with dread, a potent cocktail pushing forward, despite lingering fears still haunting shadows left behind. As screen lit up, revealing face staring back at me, I felt breath catch in throat. It was someone familiar yet so different, someone who had once been lost within depths darkness, now standing there before me, alive yet changed beyond recognition. "Hello again," they said coolly, their voice smooth yet laced with an undertone sending shivers racing down spine. "I'm here to help you finish what you started." This segment concludes your horror story while emphasizing themes of resilience and empowerment against overwhelming odds. It wraps up character arcs while leaving room for interpretation about what lies ahead for them after confronting their fears and challenges together. Feel free to modify any parts or add personal touches. The final showdown. As I stared at the screen, my heart raced. The face looking back at me was familiar yet unsettling: Ryan's old friend, Alex, who had vanished years ago. I had thought he was just another victim of the collective, but now he seemed to be part of something much larger. "Alex," I said hesitantly, trying to process the shock of seeing him again. "What happened to you?" "I'll explain everything," he replied, his voice steady but urgent. "But first, we need to act quickly. The collective is on high alert after your infiltration. They'll be hunting for you, and they won't stop until they silence you for good." "Why are you helping us?" I asked, still wary despite my relief at seeing a familiar face. "Because I know what they're capable of," he said, his expression darkening. "I was once part of their inner circle before I realized the truth. They manipulate people like puppets, feeding off fear and chaos. I escaped, but many aren't so lucky." "What do we do now?" I asked, feeling a mix of hope and trepidation. "We need to gather more evidence and rally support," Alex explained. "There are others out there who have been victimized by the collective. If we can unite them, we can expose their operations and bring them down." I nodded, feeling a sense of purpose rekindling within me. "Let's do it." As we began planning our next steps, I felt a rush of adrenaline. This was our chance to fight back against the darkness that had haunted us for so long. Alex shared his knowledge about the collective's network and how they operated, providing us with crucial information that could help us in our mission. "We need to create a safe space where victims can come forward without fear," Alex suggested, "a platform where they can share their stories and find support." "That's a great idea," Sarah chimed in as she joined us again after her own narrow escape. "We can use social media to spread awareness and connect with others who might be willing to speak out." With our plan in place, we set to work immediately. We created a website dedicated to exposing the collective, compiling evidence, testimonials from victims, and resources for those seeking help. We knew that time was of the essence. Every moment spent in silence was another moment the collective could tighten its grip on unsuspecting victims. As we worked late into the night, I felt an overwhelming sense of camaraderie among us, three individuals united by a common goal: to dismantle the darkness that threatened to consume our lives. But even as we pressed forward with our mission, I couldn't shake the feeling that danger lurked just around the corner. Each time my phone buzzed with notifications or emails from unknown sources, my heart would race with anxiety. Then came the day when everything changed. While we were deep in our work at my apartment, a loud crash echoed from outside, a sound that sent chills down my spine. We rushed to the window and saw several figures in dark clothing surrounding our building. "It's them," Sarah gasped as she stepped back from the window in horror. "We need to hide," Ryan shouted urgently. We scrambled to find places to conceal ourselves as footsteps thundered up the stairs outside. My heart raced as I ducked behind my desk, praying they wouldn't find us. The door burst open, and masked figures stormed into the room, searching for any sign of us. My breath caught in my throat as I watched them rummage through our belongings, tearing apart everything we had worked so hard for. "Split up," one of them ordered their comrades. "They can't have gone far." I held my breath as one of them approached my hiding spot. Just as they reached out to check behind my desk, Ryan lunged forward from his hiding place and tackled the figure to the ground. "Go. Now," he shouted at me and Sarah. We didn't hesitate. We dashed toward the back exit while chaos erupted behind us. We burst through the door into an alleyway just as shouts filled the air, a cacophony of voices demanding our capture. "Keep running," I yelled as we sprinted into the night, our feet pounding against pavement, echoing like war drums behind us. We ran through winding streets until we reached a nearby park, a place filled with shadows under flickering streetlights casting eerie shapes across grass below. "We need a plan," Sarah panted as we caught our breath beneath an old oak tree, its branches stretching overhead like protective arms shielding us from prying eyes lurking just beyond reach. "Alex said there are others who have been victimized," I reminded her breathlessly, my mind racing with possibilities, while adrenaline coursed through veins, igniting flames burning brightly within soul once more. "We can't let this end here," I continued, firmly determined not to surrender despite overwhelming odds stacked against us all. As we strategized under cover of darkness, I felt something shift within me, a sense of clarity emerging amidst chaos, swirling around like smoke rising into night sky above. Suddenly my phone buzzed again, a notification lighting up screen, drawing attention away from anxious thoughts swirling inside head. Opening it cautiously, I felt dread wash over me, once more reading words displayed across screen. "You think you can escape? You've only just begun to understand what happens when you defy us." Panic surged within me again, but alongside it came something else, clarity, a renewed sense, purpose, igniting flames burning brightly within soul once more. "Let's turn this around," I said decisively, looking at Sarah and Ryan, determination etched across faces, reflecting strength forged through trials endured together a long way, leading toward brighter futures, waiting patiently ahead, beckoning invitingly toward hope rather than despair. With newfound resolve coursing through veins, we set forth, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing united we could overcome anything thrown our way, even forces lurking just beyond reach, waiting patiently for opportunity to strike again. As dawn broke over horizon, illuminating everything anew, I realized something profound. Together we held power within ourselves, the power forged from choices made a long way, leading toward brighter futures filled only with possibilities waiting patiently ahead, beckoning invitingly toward brighter tomorrows yet unseen. With renewed determination coursing through veins, we set forth, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing united we could overcome anything thrown our way, even forces lurking just beyond reach, waiting patiently for opportunity to strike again. And so began our journey, not just against the collective, but also toward reclaiming lives lost amidst shadows cast by deceitful hands pulling strings behind scenes. With every step taken forward, we grew stronger together, forging paths anew, filled only with possibilities waiting patiently ahead, beckoning invitingly toward brighter tomorrows yet unseen. This segment concludes your horror story, while emphasizing themes of resilience and empowerment against overwhelming odds. It wraps up character arcs while leaving room for interpretation about what lies ahead for them after confronting their fears and challenges together. Feel free to modify any parts or add personal touches.